Good morning from New York, distinguished guests, heads of state and government, and everyone joining us from around the world. Welcome to the Summit of the Future Global Call. I'm Melissa Fleming, the United Nations Undersecretary General for Global Communications, and it is my honor to moderate this event. Today, we gather at a pivotal moment in our shared journey towards a more sustainable, safe, and just future for all. With the Summit of the Future a mere 10 days away, today's event brings together global leaders to share their aspirations for the summit. This global call is hosted by the President of the Republic of Namibia, His Excellency Nangola Mbumba, and the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, His Excellency Olaf Scholz. Before we proceed, I would like to express deep appreciation for the tireless work of the permanent representatives of Namibia and Germany to the United Nations, who co-facilitated intergovernmental negotiations on the outcome document of the summit, the Pact for the Future, here in New York. To officially open today's event, it is my privilege to introduce our host. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Chancellor Olaf Scholz of Germany and His Excellency President Nangola Mbumba of Namibia. Excellencies, you have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this meeting. Alongside my esteemed counterpart, President Nangola Mbumba, we have gathered today to carry the Pact for the Future across the finish line. I'm therefore delighted about the large number of participants and wish us all a good, fruitful exchange.
Thank you, moderator. Allow me also to welcome the head of state and government who have virtually joined this call to action, and those who have submitted pre-recorded video statement. I am pleased to join His Excellency Chancellor Olaf Scholz and the UN Secretary General, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, for this important outreach to follow world leaders through today's call to action to support the successful conclusion of the Pact of the Future to be adopted at the Summit of the Future in 10 days' time.
Thank you, President Mbumba and Chancellor Scholz, for your kind welcome. And next, we are honored to hear remarks from His Excellency Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations. Secretary General Guterres will share his insights on the upcoming Summit of the Future. Mr. Secretary General, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. President Nangola Mbumba, Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Excellencies. Thank you for bringing us together today for this global call on the Summit of the Future. The summit is just days away, but getting to this point has taken years of effort. And I want to thank you and your governments for your commitment every step of the way. Member States are now in the final stages of negotiating the 3 agreements to be adopted at the Summit of the Future: the Pact for the Future, the Global Digital Compact, and the Declaration on Future Generations. My appeal is for you to push hard for the deepest reforms and most meaningful actions possible. We need maximum ambition during these final days of negotiation, because the challenges we face are moving much faster than our ability to solve them. Ferocious conflicts are inflicting terrible suffering. Deep geopolitical divides are creating dangerous tensions multiplied by nuclear threats. Inequality and injustice corrode trust and fuel populism and extremism. Discrimination, misogyny and racism are taking on new forms, and poverty and hunger are at crisis levels as the Sustainable Development Goals are slipping out of reach. And we have no effective global response to new and even existential threats. 9 years after the Paris Agreement, the climate crisis is still accelerating, and technologies like artificial intelligence are being developed in an ethical and legal vacuum. Our institutions cannot keep up because they are designed for another era and another world. The Security Council is stuck in a time warp. The international financial architecture is outdated and ineffective, and we are simply not equipped to take on a wide range of emerging issues. 21st century challenges require 21st century problem-solving institutions. And the Summit of the Future is an important step in the journey to build stronger and more effective multilateralism. An opportunity to update and reform global institutions, including the Security Council and the international financial architecture, to reflect and respond to the political and economic realities of today and tomorrow. We need a renewed focus on the prevention and mediation of conflicts, not only through negotiation and preventive diplomacy, but by creating conditions for stability through sustainable development and respect for human rights. We need to connect the root causes of conflict and recognize that the climate crisis is a threat multiplier for insecurity. And we need to respond to the changing nature of warfare and update our peace operations accordingly. And we need agreement on mitigating the risks of weaponizing new technologies. As well as we need reforms to the global financial architecture that make it correspond to today's global economy and fit to address today's challenges. Global financial institutions should support developing countries to lift themselves out of debt and invest in sustainable development and climate action. We need to increase the lending capacity of multilateral development banks dramatically and change their business model so that they can help developing countries to gain far more access to private finance at affordable rates. And we need ways for governments, together with tech companies, academia and civil society, to work together to manage the risks posed by new technologies, including AI, and make sure those technologies benefit everybody. The United Nations is in a unique position to act as a platform and a convening space for key stakeholders. As global shocks become more complex and disruptive, we need emergency platforms that swing into action automatically, convening major players according to agreed protocols. We cannot walk into the next global pandemic or shock without being better prepared. And across the board, we need to strengthen respect for human rights and cultural diversity. In the face of renewed attacks on the rights and dignity of women and girls, we need strong action to end discrimination and gender-based violence and remove the barriers that exclude women from power. In short, we need greater global solidarity today and with future generations, better management of critical issues of global concern, and an upgraded United Nations that can meet the challenges of a new era. As we reach the end of negotiations on the three texts, I appeal to all governments to make sure they are as ambitious as possible to restore the hope and trust we need in order to address the dramatic challenges of our time with a new global consensus. Excellencies, the Summit of the Future is an opportunity for far-reaching agreements on international collaboration for a safer, more sustainable, and more equitable world. Let's seize it. And I call on member states to act swiftly with vision, courage, solidarity, and the spirit of compromise to get the three draft agreements over the finish line. Let's make the most of this critical milestone on the road to a more networked, effective, and inclusive multilateralism for the 21st century, and I thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General Guterres, for setting the stage and for your call for greater ambition ahead of the Summit of the Future, and also for recalling the inclusive process that brought us where we are today over the course of 4 years. We now turn back to His Excellency President Nangola Mbumba of Namibia. President Mbumba, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, our moderator. Esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, today we stand at a crossroads in history. The challenges we face from climate change to global inequality, from geopolitical tension to the need for urgent implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, require rigorous collective commitment. The future of the United Nations hinges on our ability to act as a more inclusive, effective, and innovative platform, readjust our strategy, and strengthen our global institutions for addressing the pressing challenges of our time. We must ensure that the UN remains the primary forum where global problems are discussed and solutions are forged. This means providing the UN with the resources and the political support necessary to fulfill its mandate. We must also reaffirm our shared values, the values of peace, of security, human rights, and sustainable development, ensuring that the principles of the UN Charter guide our collective action. Esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, multilateralism is not just a choice. It is a necessity in today's world, in particular for small and developing countries such as the Republic of Namibia. No single nation, no matter how powerful, can solve the complex cross-border issues that confront us. From pandemics to cybersecurity, from migration to the digital economy, multilateral solutions are imperative. This requires the involvement not just of state, but also of civil society, private sector, and non-state actors. While the negotiations for the Pact of the Future are still going on in New York, I strongly encourage all member states to reflect in earnest on how we can continue to build on multilateralism. It is the hope of the people and the government of Namibia that the Pact will lay the new foundations to ensuring enhanced representation and inclusivity which better reflect the global realities of today. We also look forward to seeing an outcome that addresses particularly United Nations Security Council reform to address contemporary challenges more effectively. We must enhance the UN's capacity to respond quickly to crises, whether they are humanitarian, environmental, or security related. The digitalization of our world has been a critical prerequisite for development. And through the Pact of the Future and the Global Digital Compact, I look forward to the UN employing new technologies to respond to crises, improve transparency, and engage more effectively with global citizens. With 10 days to go to the summit, I look forward to joining you in New York. The summit should be a platform for bold ideas and concrete commitments that will reinvigorate the UN and multilateralism for the 21st century. We need to set clear priorities, from addressing climate change to securing global public health, from preventing conflict to promoting technological cooperation. In conclusion, let us be clear. The future of the United Nations is in our hands. It is up to us to ensure that all UN institutions are inclusive, effective, adaptable, and capable of delivering peace, prosperity, and justice to our worlds that our world so desperately needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Mbumba, for your insightful reflections. I now invite His Excellency, Chancellor Olaf Scholz of Germany, to give his remarks. Chancellor Scholz, you have the floor.
Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, today we find ourselves in a world that feels more divided, more polarized and more uncertain than it has for a long time. The international order, as we know it, is facing tremendous challenges. For some countries, the statement holds promise, the promise that the tables are finally turning. Others are worried, and that does not just include Western democracies. International law is being violated. Russia's imperialistic war of aggression against Ukraine might be the most brazen example, but it's not the only one by far. Nuclear proliferation poses growing threats, all while climate change and its consequences question the very foundations of the way we live. So today we are facing a fundamental question. How can we reflect the power shifts of our world is experiencing, and at the same time maintain international order in the 21st century? For me, the first part of the answer is this. Any effective international order needs to reflect the world's multipolarity. Countries in Asia, Africa, and the Americas have growing populations and economies. Hundreds of millions of people globally have lifted themselves out of poverty and joined the global middle class. They have every right to the same level of prosperity, participation, and global influence that citizens in Europe and North America enjoy. So I deeply believe there is no global order without fair representation and participation. As co-facilitators for the Pact for the Future, we, Namibia and Germany, have been guided by this principle. We have been working tirelessly to forge the best possible consensus. Over almost a year of tough negotiations, Namibia and Germany have chosen an inclusive approach, not least through our engagement with civil society and other stakeholders. I want to take this opportunity to thank our friends from Namibia for this excellent cooperation that brought our two nations even closer together. Our collaboration also shows what we can achieve when two partners from different corners of this planet with different goals but shared principles join hands. Thank you, President Mbumba, my friend Nangolo, for your cooperation, trust and friendship. Colleagues, after multiple rounds of negotiations, the good news is an overwhelming majority of countries in the world agree on the goals that humanity should be thriving for. We want a world that is safe, peaceful, just, equal, inclusive, sustainable and prosperous. A world in which human well-being, security, dignity and a healthy planet are assured. In less than 2 weeks, the Summit of the Future and the pact we want to conclude there will present a unique opportunity to take an important step towards this goal. With the Pact for the Future, we want to commit to cooperation and partnerships despite conflicts and challenges. We want to restore trust in our shared institutions, and we want to agree on concrete actions for our common future. We will reaffirm our joint commitment to the UN Charter, to international law, to the 2030 Agenda, to the Paris Agreement and to the protection of human rights. And we will commit to advancing the essential institutional reforms of the international system, particularly the UN Security Council and the international financial architecture. The Pact for the Future will also enable the United Nations to better deliver on these core tasks. But agreeing on the Pact for the Future presents an even greater opportunity, one that goes beyond individual goals we all pursued during the negotiations. The Pact offers us the chance to change the narrative of division, polarization and uncertainty. It offers us the chance to show the world that cooperation still yields results, that multilateralism is alive, that global solidarity exists. I know that even now, when we can see the finishing line ahead of us, there are still some differences to bridge in the ongoing negotiations. Speaking for Germany, I can assure you that we are deeply committed to doing just that. And I encourage all of us to help us. There's little to lose, but so much to gain. Together, we can advance the sustainable transformation of our economies and tap into the potentials of renewable energy. Together, we can unlock the necessary financial resources, including through bigger, better and more effective multilateral development banks and more effective debt relief building on the G20 common framework. Together, we can ensure that every corner of the world gets fair access to technological advances like AI. And together, we can reform global governance to better reflect today's world and to ensure more appropriate representation. I'm looking forward to seeing you in New York in less than 2 weeks. As the Secretary General has repeatedly reminded us, we stand at the crossroads between breakdown and breakthrough. I'm sure that we will make the right choice. Now it is up to all of us to seek compromise and to show the world that there is much more that unites us than divides us. President Mumba and I are grateful for your support. And now we are thrilled to hear your expectations. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Scholz, and thank you very much, Excellencies, for your participation in today's event. We have heard your strong pleas to your fellow global leaders to meet the moment and be ambitious in charting a new course for a reformed, networked, and more inclusive multilateralism at the landmark Summit of the Future in just 10 days from now. This concludes the live part of our Summit of the Future global call. We now move to the next segment of our program, and in this part, we will broadcast video statements received from heads of state and government from around the world, in which they share their vision for the upcoming Summit of the Future and the Pact for the Future. We have received contributions from 45 countries, and each message adds a vital voice to our global dialogue on the future of international cooperation. The statements will soon be available online at www.sotfglobalcall.org. That's www.sotfglobalcall.org. This segment will commence with a video statement from the President of the General Assembly, His Excellency, Mr. Philemon Yang, who will host the Summit of the Future. His statement will be followed by the video statements received from heads of state and government of the United Nations member states, followed by permanent observers. We look forward to seeing you at the Summit of the Future and its preceding action days later this month. Until then, take care and goodbye.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we approach the Summit of the Future and prepare for its outcome document, we must demonstrate that multilateralism is still the most effective tool for addressing the complex global challenges of our time. We bear a special responsibility to ensure that the multilateral system remains fit for purpose, capable of responding not only to today's challenges, but also to those of tomorrow. I therefore call on all member states to set aside differences and reservations and reach consensus on an ambitious and action-oriented pact for the future. The challenges of the 21st century are increasingly complex and globalized. Addressing these issues requires our collective political will and a commitment to act together. The General Assembly, where all member states are represented, is the ideal forum for reaching a common understanding of the challenges we face and the actions we must undertake. The preparatory process for the Summit of the Future and the negotiations on the Pact of the Future exemplify the power of multilateralism. They demonstrate what can be achieved when we engage constructively, act in good faith, and work together in solidarity. Nearly 80 years after the establishment of the United Nations, it is time to renew our commitment to international cooperation, restore trust in multilateralism, and ensure that the multilateral system we have in place, with a strong United Nations at its core, is prepared to meet the challenges of the future. If we are to advance peace, sustainable development, and human dignity for everyone, the Summit of the Future offers a crucial moment. It allows us to demonstrate that while the peoples and nations of the world are diverse, they are united in their pursuit of a common objective, a better future for all humanity. Adopting the Pact for the Future and implementing its actions will be essential in fulfilling the aims of the United Nations Charter, both now and in the years to come. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين صاحب الفخامة رئيس جمهورية ناميبيا وصاحب الفخامة مستشار جمهورية ألمانيا الاتحادية معالي السيد رئيس الجمعية العامة للأمم المتحدة معالي السيد الأمين العام لمنظمتنا الأممية سيدات فضليات السادة الأفاضل السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. لا ريب أن عالمنا اليوم يمر بمنعطف مصيري بالغ الخطورة والحساسية من جراء المخاطر المتراكمة لمختلف التحديات الأمنية والتنموية والمناخية التي تواجه شعوبنا ودولنا على حد سواء. فمثل هذه الظروف الاستثنائية تعيد إلى واجهة الأولويات ضرورة إعادة الاعتبار لما يجمعنا ويوحدنا تحت قبة منظمتنا الأممية هذه التي ندعمها دعما مطلقا لأننا نثق تماما وتمام الثقة أنه لا بديل لها ولا غنى عنها. من هذا المنظور فإن قمة المستقبل التي نحن بصدد التحضير لها لا ينبغي أن تكون مجرد حدث عاد أو مناسبة عابرة، بل على العكس من ذلك تماما، فإن هذا الموعد ينبغي توظيفه وتثمينه أولا كمحطة فارقة لتجديد التزامنا الجماعي بالمبادئ والقيم المكرسة في الميثاق الأممي، تلك المبادئ والقيم التي وضعت من أجل صون أمننا الجماعي ونسج ترابط منصف بين بلداننا وإعلاء مصالحنا المشتركة. ثانيا كفرصة متجددة لاستدراك ما فاتنا من مساع هادفة لبلورة حلول سلمية للأزمات والصراعات التي تثقل كاهل المجموعة الدولية. ثالثا وأخيرا كركيزة صلبة لاستشراف آفاق مستقبل أفضل في ظل منظومة دولية متوازنة وعادلة، منظومة تضمن الأمن والاستقرار والرخاء للجميع، ومنظومة تنهي التهميش الذي طال أمده بحق الدول الإفريقية، ومنظومة تستجيب للشعوب المضطهدة وتمحي آخر آفات من آفات العقود الغابرة، ألا وهي آفة الهيمنة والاحتلال والاستعمار. وبناء على هذا أدعو قادة العالم إلى الانضمام إلى هذا المسعى النبيل وإلى حشد جهودنا بغية ترجمة ما ستجتمع عليه قيمنا من مخرجات إلى نتائج فعلية تحفظ مصالح الأجيال القادمة والحالية. شكرا على كرم الإصغاء، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our world is at a crossroads. Geopolitical tensions are rising. The triple planetary crisis of climate crisis, biodiversity loss, and pollution is unveiling before our eyes. 2024 has been the hottest year ever recorded. And the implementation of the SDGs remains critically off track. We cannot ignore this. We need renewed commitment, accelerated action, strengthened partnerships, and mutual trust. The Summit of the Future is a critical and transformative moment, setting the stage for bold action and strong cooperation with an ambitious Pact for the Future, the Declaration on Future Generations, and the Global Digital Compact. The Pact represents our collective will and genuine commitment to ensure a sustainable, safe, and peaceful planet based on a new global consensus. Rule of law must be one of its cornerstones. It is a precondition for lasting peace, security, economic development, and social progress. Human rights must remain at the core of our global vision. As universal principles face growing challenges, we must redouble our efforts to defend those rights. Furthermore, the Pact needs to deliver strong commitments to the disarmament and non-proliferation regime. We must ensure that nuclear weapons are never used again, and that new technologies will not dehumanize current and future generations. We need legally binding prohibitions and regulation of autonomous weapons systems. We must rethink our peace operations to enable them to react to new types of threats. And we need to reform the UN Security Council so that it truly reflects the diversity and plurality of our global community. Austria will remain firmly committed to an effective and to a networked multilateralism. I call on us to seize this moment. Let us come together. Let us walk the talk and implement what we agreed upon. Let us give a proof of our unwavering commitment to our youth and future generations. Thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time of great global challenges and threats. The world faces threats that transcend the borders of individual states, such as climate change, growing social inequality, technological advancement, and conflict that threaten global security and peace. We are witnessing increasingly pronounced divisions between countries, escalation of tensions, and the return of rhetoric that reminds us of the darker chapter of our common history. In these circumstances, we must collectively create a response to guide us towards a safer and more prosperous future. Let's show determination, solidarity, and willingness to build a better future together. Let's find the strength and wisdom for new thinking, innovative strategies, and strong commitment to common goals, peace, prosperity, and sustainable development. The world needs a new vision of global partnership based on mutual respect, trust, and shared values. The Pact for the Future should become our vision of a collective response. Bosnia and Herzegovina is strongly advocated for the strengthening of the United Nations conflict prevention and peace-building instruments. Let's build democratic societies in which sustainable development is not only measured by economic growth, but also by preserving our planet for future generations. We all need the Pact of the Future to be a strong and inclusive framework for revitalizing multilateralism and strengthening global cooperation. The Pact of the Future must ensure international institutions reform, including the United Nations, so that they become more agile and effective when facing the challenges of our time. Bosnia and Herzegovina will persistently work to strengthen the role of the United Nations in ensuring global peace and security. The Pact of the Future is an opportunity to create global initiatives that can ensure a better future for all. Bosnia and Herzegovina survived brutal aggression in and around Srebrenica. The only genocide in Europe after the Second World War was committed against Bosniaks. My country recognizes the values of peace and freedom. We advocate the improvement of the collective security architecture. Bosnia and Herzegovina is determined to strengthen the capacities of preventive diplomacy and mediation. Let's all work together to ensure that genocide, crime against humanity, and other serious crimes never happen again. Let's all work together to strengthen the credibility of the United Nations as the fundamental multilateral cooperation platform.
I'm delighted to join Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, and others in this global call ahead of the Summit of the Future. Botswana looks forward with anticipation to the summit, which is aimed at enhancing and reinvigorating the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We are aware of the global challenges that the world continues to grapple with. We are equally mindful of the opportunities and potential that can be harnessed collectively to bring renewed focus and hope on the efficacy of multilateralism. It is therefore imperative for political leaders to utilize the summit to underline and demonstrate the commitment to the attainment of the SDGs. For us, it is equally important to encourage constructive engagement of various stakeholders, including the private sector and civil society organizations, that have them join in the call to reignite hope. The tremendous challenges that transcend national borders require the engagement of all. We anticipate with optimism that the summit will recommit to and reaffirm the three United Nations pillars of international peace and security, sustainable development, and human rights as mutually reinforcing in the United Nations Charter and under international law. Botswana further hopes that the summit will address pertinent issues such as the eradication of poverty in all its different forms and dimensions, addressing issues of climate change and climate financing, the need to reform the international financial architecture, closing the digital divide, and accelerating efforts geared towards achievement of gender parity. In addition, we are hopeful that the summit will highlight the importance of acting collectively to address threats to international peace and security and underline the significance of preventative diplomacy, dialogue and the peaceful settlement of disputes, and reform of the Security Council, among others. We also need to demonstrate to the youth and future generations our unwavering commitment to ensuring that their needs, benefits and opportunities will be broadened and safeguarded. The summit requires the development of concise, action-oriented and tangible goals. These could be in the form of clear implementation strategies, review mechanisms, including a system of checks and balances outlining progress and challenges as part of the road to 2030 and beyond. There are so many other issues that I could highlight, but allow me to conclude by reiterating that Botswana looks forward to the summit as an opportunity to bring back hope and credibility to the multilateral system in order to reaffirm our commitment to the 2030 agenda. These are not elusive goals if we work collectively and remain committed to global transformation for the common good and benefit of mankind. I thank you.
Meus amigos e minhas amigas, dentro de poucos dias nos encontraremos em Nova York na Cúpula do Futuro. Agradeço ao chanceler Olavo Scholz e ao presidente Nangolo Mbumba por terem nos conduzido ao longo desse caminho com a Alemanha e Namíbia como facilitadores do Pacto para o Futuro. Desde a Segunda Guerra Mundial, o multilateralismo rendeu muitos frutos. É impossível explicar o que se passou nas últimas 8 décadas sem aludir ao papel da ONU e das instituições de Bretton Woods, ou sem recorrer a conceitos como descolonização, desarmamento, direitos humanos e desenvolvimento sustentável. No entanto, assim como acontece com qualquer criança que cresce e amadurece, as roupas que vestimos em 1945 já não nos cabem mais. Há mais de 20 anos temos falado sobre a reforma da governança global. Estamos correndo em círculos. Chegou a hora de agir. O Brasil está dando um novo impulso à reforma da governança global na sua presidência do G20. Mas esse debate também precisa ser travado na ONU, o fórum mais inclusivo de todos. Gostaríamos que todos fossem à cúpula do futuro com a ambição de promover reformas efetivas. O Conselho de Segurança precisa ampliar sua composição nas 2 categorias de membros permanentes e não permanentes. O cumprimento das metas de desenvolvimento sustentável requer que o Banco Mundial e o FMI atendam melhor às necessidades do Sul global. Isso só ocorrerá se os países em desenvolvimento tiverem maior espaço nesses organismos. O enfrentamento da mudança do clima demanda órgãos com autoridade para promover a implementação dos compromissos assumidos. A Aliança Global contra a Fome, que lançaremos no G20, estará aberta a todos os países da ONU. Ela nasce da vontade política e do espírito de solidariedade de enfrentar essa chaga que ainda assombra a humanidade. Precisamos legar para gerações futuras um sistema multilateral renovado, legítimo e eficaz. Muito obrigado y boa suerte.
Excelencias, lo primero que debemos preguntarnos todos es si habrá futuro, si lograremos garantizar a las futuras generaciones ese espacio que cabe en una palabra tan llena de interrogantes y tan carente de certezas. Seguramente las respuestas serán tan variadas como las condiciones de vida, infrahumanas, soportables, cómodas o lujosas de quienes tengan la posibilidad de responder. El futuro al que aspiramos fue trazado hace décadas y no pinta nada bien si nos guiamos por las señales de este presente, cada vez más desigual y excluyente, que la voraz versión neoliberal del capitalismo ha impuesto a escala global, como expresión de la antidemocrática unipolaridad que sobrevino al derrumbe de la alternativa socialista con el apogeo intervencionista de la OTAN. La cumbre del futuro está llamada a abordar de forma directa y holística los fallos estructurales, sistémicos, morales y políticos que nos han impedido alcanzar las metas planteadas en su pacto. Solo el multilateralismo puede garantizar un escenario fiable donde de conjunto emprendamos las acciones impostergables contra la coerción, la desigualdad, el genocidio, los dobles raseros y la amenaza de guerra. Pero ello solo será posible si existe voluntad política real de remover las bases del actual orden internacional profundamente injusto, desigual y excluyente. No podrá siquiera hablarse de futuro mientras no se detenga la barbarie sionista contra Palestina, mientras prevalezca la filosofía del despojo, que es la filosofía de la guerra, como advirtió tan claramente hace 64 años el máximo líder de la Revolución Cubana, Fidel Castro Ruz. El futuro será una quimera limitada a informes y discursos mientras sigan creciendo escandalosamente los gastos en armamento y se reduzcan, congelen o bloqueen los fondos imprescindibles para financiar el desarrollo. No podrá hablarse de futuro sin proveer a los más vulnerables de los medios financieros, tecnológicos y científicos necesarios para abordar el reto que hoy representa para nuestras naciones enfrentar el cambio climático y a la vez emprender el camino hacia el desarrollo. La reforma profunda que exige la arquitectura financiera internacional es fundamental para cerrar la brecha abismal que hoy separa al norte del sur. Este ejercicio no podrá traducirse en beneficios reales para nuestros pueblos si no se realiza bajo la conducción de las Naciones Unidas. Los efectos de los desequilibrios provocados por el orden económico internacional se multiplican para los países sometidos a medidas coercitivas unilaterales. Reiteramos el llamado a los Estados para que se abstengan de promulgar y aplicar estas medidas violatorias del derecho internacional y la Carta de la ONU. Para Cuba, el futuro exige que se levante de una vez el ilegal bloqueo de los Estados Unidos y se retire al país de la arbitraria lista de estados que supuestamente patrocinan el terrorismo. Excelencias, debemos reconocer que la alternativa al caos, a la coerción y a los desequilibrios que hoy imperan no puede partir de las viejas recetas y modelos de gobernanza. Deben replantearse las bases actuales que definen la coexistencia en el planeta. El futuro no existe. Espera que lo hagamos. Muchas gracias.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to address the global call for the Summit of the Future. This meeting is very timely as it is held less than a fortnight before the commencement of the high-level week of the 79th session of the UN General Assembly and the Summit for the Future itself. I extend my sincere appreciation to the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany and the President of the Republic of Namibia for organizing this very important event. Last year, we reaffirmed that the 2030 Agenda remains our overarching roadmap for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and overcoming the multiple crises facing humanity. This year, we are expected to reinvigorate global action to protect the needs and interests both of present and future generations. I wish to commend the efforts of the two co-facilitators during this challenging but important process of finalizing a mutually agreed pact for the future, which includes both bold and ambitious actions. Dear friends, Cyprus has a unique standing in the global sphere. While belonging to the European Union, we are a member of the Asia-Pacific Group and a former and proud member of the Small Island Developing States. This unique position comes with certain burdens and responsibilities as we share the concerns and challenges of our European family, our Asian and Pacific partners, and of course, the small island states. As a small island, we are particularly vulnerable to the adverse impacts of climate change, such as droughts and rising sea levels. Therefore, we welcome the enhanced global ambition to effectively address the effects of climate change. As a small island state, we are committed to working together alongside all UN member states to ensure the full enjoyment of human rights on an equal footing. With this deeply held conviction, we have decided to present our candidacy for the first time for the UN Human Rights Council for the period 2025 to 2027. During this time, we will seek to promote the advancement of human rights of all, including children, women, persons with disabilities and other vulnerable groups. We will also encourage cultural dialogue as a means to foster understanding and defying the obstacles of discrimination and misunderstanding. Dear colleagues, I believe I speak on behalf of everyone when I say that we look forward to adopting an inspiring and action-oriented pact for the future. I'm a firm believer that the advancement of human rights should be an integral part of the pact. Together with the Declaration for Future Generations and the Global Digital Pact, this pact will guide our collective efforts in making a tangible difference in the lives of our people. I look forward to joining you in a couple of weeks in New York. Thank you very much.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أخي فخامة الرئيس نانغولو مومبا رئيس جمهورية ناميبيا، فخامة المستشار أولاف شولتز مستشار جمهورية ألمانيا الاتحادية، معالي السيد أنطونيو جوتيريش سكرتير عام الأمم المتحدة، نلتقي قبل أيام من قمة المستقبل التي تنعقد عليها الآمال من أجل التوصل لتوافق دولي من شأنه تعزيز العمل متعدد الأطراف، وفي القلب منه جهود منظمة الأمم المتحدة بما يحقق أهدافنا المشتركة في التنمية المستدامة والحفاظ على السلم والأمن الدوليين وتمتع الشعوب كافة بحقوق الإنسان بشكل شامل وعادل. السيدات والسادة، إن قمة المستقبل تنعقد في ظل أزمات دولية متنامية سياسيا واقتصاديا، وأخص بالذكر هنا حالة التصعيد الخطيرة بالشرق الأوسط بما لها من تداعيات سلبية على المستوى الدولي، وهو ما يحتم علينا أن تتضافر جهودنا خلال القمة لتحقيق الأولويات التالية: أولا، التمسك التام بتطبيق ميثاق الأمم المتحدة لإرساء نظام قائم على مبادئ وقواعد القانون الدولي دون تمييز أو معايير مزدوجة، وتنفيذ قرارات الشرعية الدولية لترسيخ استقرار السلم والأمن الدوليين. ثانيا، إصلاح هيكل النظام المالي العالمي وتعزيز مشاركة الدول النامية في آليات صنع القرار الاقتصادي، وتقويض دور الأمم المتحدة في الحوكمة الاقتصادية الدولية بما يسهم في تسهيل حصول دول الجنوب على التمويل اللازم لتحقيق التنمية المستدامة، فضلا عن معالجة أزمة الديون التي تتراكم على الدول النامية جراء أزمات عالمية لم تتسبب فيها تلك الدول. ثالثا، تعزيز جهود القضاء على الفقر والجوع على المستوى العالمي ومواجهة تحديات الأمن الغذائي التي تتفاقم نتيجة عوامل متعددة على رأسها ندرة المياه سواء لأسباب طبيعية أو مصطنعة، الأمر الذي يتطلب تعاونا دوليا للوفاء بحق الجميع في النفاذ للمياه واحترام القانون الدولي في إدارة الأنهار العابرة للحدود لضمان تحقيق التوافق بين الدول المعنية وعدم وقوع أضرار على أي دولة. وفي الختام، تتطلع مصر إلى خروج القمة بنتائج ملموسة تدفع نحو التغيير الحقيقي تنفيذا للتعهدات الدولية بتوفير الأمن وتحقيق التنمية المستدامة لجميع شعوب العالم دون استثناء. شكرا لكم.
The summit of the future is just days away. My three expectations for the summit are the following. First, renewing our commitment to multilateralism. The UN is the only truly global organization we have. We need to make the most of it. We need to do better. We will not find solutions to problems that affect us all by talking among like-minded alone. The summit is an opportunity to recommit ourselves to dialogue, multilateral cooperation, and to the rules and principles of the UN Charter. Second, crafting a vision for the future of the UN. A UN capable of delivering on its promises for peace, human rights, and sustainable development. A UN ready to face new and emerging issues such as digitalization and disruptive technologies. And most importantly, a UN that is inclusive, representative, and effective. This invaluable institution has to be able to adapt to the realities of today. Third, understanding that the future belongs to the generations that come after us. We cannot leave them with the planet burning or drowning. Young people must be heard. Predicting the future seems exceedingly difficult. We must start by mapping the many challenges of today and actively looking for solutions together.
Dear colleagues and friends, our world faces challenges we could not have imagined 80 years ago. However, our shared experience in cooperation and solidarity has endowed us with tools that bring solutions to those challenges within our reach like never before. But we need to do more. Guatemala has experienced firsthand the effectiveness of multilateralism and international solidarity, even when it has faced challenges and ever-present risks, particularly after a generation-long armed conflict. Today, the Guatemalan people live peacefully and strive to consolidate its democratic regime. The support of the United Nations and other multilateral organizations has been key in achieving peace and safeguarding democracy at a time and place where it seemed impossible. Our experience shows that an international system anchored in cooperation and solidarity is key to attaining the goals that each of our nations sets forth for themselves. This system, to be effective, needs to be enriched with rules of law and institutions that organize our existence in this common home that is our planet, and that allow us to develop as nations and as an international community in peace. We believe that governments are accountable to their people first and foremost, but we also believe that governments and leaders should be made accountable to their peers. We expect that the Pact for the Future will enable more effective cooperation in fighting corruption wherever it may exist. The Sustainable Development Goals that this organization has collectively defined can only be achieved if government resources, local and international, are allocated transparently, democratically, and efficiently. Diplomacy, cooperation, and dialogue are the only mechanisms we have to comprehensively address the global challenges we face. By collectively pooling our efforts, by watching over each other, by caring for each other, all nations can undertake actions that would be impossible to carry out individually. At the heart of this reality is our collective faith in the dignity and inherent value of all human beings, and in a system of international law based on the principle of equality between nations, large and small, and in the need to create conditions to sustain justice and freedom in the world. The United Nations can do so much more. We need to renew our commitment to multilateralism and bring forth new forms of international cooperation and dialogue, characterized by equality and mutual respect, but also mutual accountability. Substantial reform is needed to redefine the mechanisms and norms by which the General Assembly and Security Council act in situations where civilian lives and human dignity are in danger. Multilateral cooperation needs to be recovered, revised, and strengthened. The dialogue around the Pact for the Future is our opportunity to do so. Thank you very much.
Secretary General Mr. Antonio Guterres, fellow heads of state and government, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I commend the co-facilitators, His Excellency Nangolo Mbumba, President of the Republic of Namibia, and His Excellency Olaf Scholz, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, for their exemplary leadership in guiding the intergovernmental negotiations for the summit, including the development of its outcome document, the Pact of the Future. Your initiative to issue a global call ahead of the Summit of the Future is highly welcome. The world today finds itself at a pivotal moment, a moment that calls for decisive action on several critical fronts. These areas include transforming our global economic and financial systems, reforming our multilateral peace and security structures, and ensuring that current and future generations equitably share in the benefits of scientific innovation and effective global governance. Taken together, these elements form the foundation of the Pact of the Future. However, it is important to recognize that the meaningful recommendations emerging from this summit will only be achievable if global cooperation is anchored on inclusivity and fairness. On sustainable development and financing, there is need to urgently close the financing gap for the Sustainable Development Goals and climate action, and to deliver on the outstanding commitments of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda. There must be a stronger push for investment and a long-term orientation in development partnerships. Additionally, we must eliminate the heavy debt burdens faced by developing countries and establish a more representative and effective global financing system. On international peace and security and transforming global governance, the current complex security landscape, evolving geopolitical alignments, and new challenges to peace necessitate continuous adaptation and re-evaluation of our existing structures and approaches. The historical injustice of Africa's lack of representation in the Security Council's permanent membership and its underrepresentation in the non-permanent category must be addressed urgently and without hesitation whatsoever. Building peace capabilities from the ground up must remain a priority, alongside a commitment to adequate financing for peace building and a multilateral approach. Regional peace and security mechanisms should be recognized and enhanced as integral parts of our preventive diplomacy efforts. On science and technology and innovation, the future of ICT will be a critical enabler across most sectors of government. The rapid advancement of technology, including developments in artificial intelligence, presents both opportunities and challenges. This duality, coupled with the borderless nature of technology, has the potential to widen the digital divide and reinforce existing biases and violence. As we work to mitigate cyber threats and develop a global digital compact, we must ensure that the benefits of technology, including AI, are equitably distributed. This involves the transfer of knowledge, capacity building, and the creation of representative and inclusive technology governance mechanisms. On youth and the future generations, the path to sustainable development must integrate and mainstream youth engagement and gender equality at all levels. In Africa alone, there are approximately 400 million young people between the ages of 16 and 35. Their lived experience often do not match their potential and ambition. This unique demographic trend calls for prioritization and investment to facilitate a positive demographic transition and meaningful livelihoods, ensuring that our young people are seen as vital assets for nation building. This should be clearly reflected and captured in our shared declaration on future generations. Excellencies, dear colleagues, we must seize the opportunity that the Summit of the Future presents for the multilateral system before it is irreversibly too late. A strong and unified pact today will lay the foundation for a more promising and sustainable future. Thank you, and I look forward to engaging with all of you at the upcoming Summit of the Future.
Dear friends, the Summit of the Future is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to strengthen our multilateral system. We are at a transformative moment for the global order, from raging conflicts and destructive effects of climate change to rising inequalities. We navigate an increasingly complex and interconnected world. It is a test for our multilateral system and rules-based international order. The United Nations is the only truly global organization. It is the core of multilateral system uniting all sovereign states. It has an essential role to maintain international peace and security, to uphold the fundamental principles of the United Nations Charter. We need to adapt to address the emerging challenges. The Pact for the Future must provide a roadmap from peacekeeping to peace building and from outer space to cyberspace. Our world must become more resilient. It should be our renewed commitment to sustainable development goals. To speed up our efforts to eradicate poverty, to reduce inequalities, and to ensure environmental sustainability. I invite to focus on digital and emerging technologies that can help to reach our common goals. Long-term resilience to tackle the climate crisis and the sea level rise. Gender equality and empowerment of women that is essential for sustainable development. International institutions must become more just and inclusive. Permanent members of the Security Council must uphold their responsibilities, especially Russia, which continues to wage its brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, Latvia is fully prepared to do its part towards safe, equal, and sustainable future. Determination to protect the fundamental values of the UN Charter guides Latvia's candidacy. Thank you very much.
Dear Secretary General of the United Nations, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, President of the Republic of Namibia, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we gather for the global call, we all share the enormous responsibility of addressing the many challenges of tomorrow. Ahead of the summit of the future, Lithuania would like to present priorities for building a safer, more sustainable and inclusive world. First of all, more needs to be done to protect our societies from the great pains of war. Russia's bloody aggression against Ukraine is particularly disturbing, as Russia is a permanent member of the Security Council of the United Nations. To preserve the international rules-based order, we must provide Ukraine with the political, humanitarian, military and financial support necessary for its final victory. Peace must be re-established on Ukraine's terms. The international organizations which were created to preserve peace and prevent new wars cannot fail to stop the present-day aggressors. The member states of the United Nations should work together to ensure the Security Council fulfills its mandate. Millions of people in Ukraine, the Middle East, the Horn of Africa and elsewhere need urgent help. We, global leaders, must act. Second, we must strengthen multilateralism and global governance. The Pact for the Future should advance ambitious innovations in global governance, reaffirming the importance of the United Nations and its Charter. We must give it more power to address present-day threats. The creation of the more effective multilateral system involving a wide range of actors, both governmental and non-governmental, is crucial for safeguarding the international order. Third, decisive action must be taken to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. At the Summit of the Future, we need answers on challenges related to new and emerging technologies, digital divides, cybersecurity, disinformation, and all kinds of hybrid threats. We should also aim to create an international financial architecture that is more just and responsive to the needs of the developing countries. Dear fellow leaders, Lithuania calls on you to act. Let us all commit to creating a pact for a better future.
Dear Chancellor Scholz, President Mumba, colleagues and citizens of the world, at this critical juncture in our history, the choices we make as leaders will shape the future of our multilateral system for generations to come. Moldova stands firmly behind the principles of the international order that foster peace, development and cooperation. Today, the international community faces complex challenges, from war in the heart of Europe to the accelerating impacts of climate change. These are challenges no single nation can overcome alone. This is why solidarity must be our strongest tool. When we discuss the future of multilateral cooperation, Moldova's expectations are simple. We need more courage. Courage to stand together, to defend the sovereignty and territorial integrity of independent nations, and to show solidarity when it is most difficult. This is how we preserve the rules-based order. Moldova's recent experience exemplifies the power of solidarity. Our people fought for freedom and democracy, removed oligarchs from power, and faced Russian gas blackmail with resilience. When Russia invaded our neighbor Ukraine, Moldovans, despite our vulnerabilities, opened their hearts and homes to refugees. But we did not face our challenges alone. The international community stood with us, and together we grew stronger. Today, Moldova is more resilient, is supporting Ukraine, and contributing to regional and global security. For Moldova, the path forward is clear. We're working relentlessly to join the European Union, a peace project where solidarity is the core value. For this European future, we are reforming our society and economy and aligning with EU standards. This work also reflects our broader commitment to the global multilateral framework. As we approach the UN Summit for the Future, the Pact for the Future is an important step towards strengthening multilateralism, and I thank Germany and Namibia for their leadership in this important debate. Moldova believes that for multilateralism to thrive, it must be driven by solidarity, especially with those most vulnerable. And as a country with war on our doorstep, I know that the most important priority is peace, a just and sustainable peace. Moldova is ready to contribute to this vision. We will continue to advocate for stronger partnerships, more robust international institutions, greater solidarity, and determined courage so that we can meet the challenges ahead. We look forward to the adoption of the Pact and remain committed to multilateral cooperation as the foundation for peace and progress. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. We find ourselves today at a crucial moment in our history. We live in a time of unprecedented and dizzying change, marked by complex and interconnected challenges which have exacerbated the stalemate in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. In the face of this, global solidarity is not just an option, it is a necessity. We cannot allow the differences that divide us to prevail. We must work together on the premise of mutual respect and support to seek solutions to the most pressing challenges of our time. Growing inequalities, the triple climate crisis, geopolitical tensions, and rapid technological evolution, among other common challenges, demand from us a coordinated and visionary response that goes beyond short-term goals and addresses the very roots of these complex issues. In this context, it is with great anticipation that we look forward to the Summit of the Future proposed by the Secretary-General in his Our Common Agenda report, to be held in New York on 22 and 23 September on the margins of the 79th General Assembly of the United Nations. Indeed, this meeting offers us a unique opportunity to renew and strengthen the multilateral system, in particular the United Nations, to reinvigorate the implementation of existing commitments such as the 2030 Agenda, and to address the gaps in global governance. We are confident that these objectives will be materialized in the Pact for the Future, the outcome document of the summit, with a view to setting out ambitious courses of action with concrete measures to advance the building of a peaceful and prosperous world for present and future generations. The urgency of this meeting cannot be underestimated. Peru therefore joins this global call with the firm conviction that together we can build a future that reflects our highest aspirations and fulfills the promise of a more just, peaceful and sustainable world for all. Thank you very much.
The Philippines looks forward to the Summit of the Future as a transformative moment for multilateralism, enhancing the strategic role of the United Nations in a rules-based global order. We hope that through our collective efforts, we can work together in addressing the new generation of challenges to make peace, justice, and sustainable development a reality for all our peoples. The Philippines reaffirms its commitments to the Sustainable Development Goals and will support innovative solutions to accelerate progress in achieving the 2030 Agenda and SDGs. As the host of the board of the Loss and Damage Fund, the Philippines will work with member states to ensure that the voices of those most affected by climate change shapes the future of international climate policies. Only by working together on the basis of common but differentiated responsibilities can we ensure a more climate-resilient future. As a reliable partner, peacemaker, and pathfinder that champions the cause of peace, progress, resilience, and sustainable development, the Philippines will be an active participant in the implementation of the Pact for the Future. These will address effectively and efficiently the many complex and evolving challenges we collectively face, including climate change, pandemics, cybersecurity, and inequality, for the benefit of present and future generations. These will promote an open, inclusive, and a rules-based international order that is governed by international law and informed by the principles of equity and of justice. This will bolster the primacy of diplomacy and international law, including the peaceful settlement of international disputes. It will also uphold the sanctity of the UN Charter and protect and promote human rights. It will empower all peoples, including young people, women, older persons, indigenous peoples, migrants, refugees, and people with disabilities to contribute in inclusive, dynamic, and diverse societies. We shall initiate steps to reform the international financial architecture to advance a just and equitable economic order, including addressing issues related to debt, financing for development, and the role of international financial institutions. We shall fast-track the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goals, including decisive climate action, disaster resilience initiatives, and access to digital innovation and science and technology. We will implement a global digital compact that will set principles for governing digital technologies, ensuring that they contribute to sustainable development, and they protect human rights and mitigate risks like misinformation and cyber threats. And finally, we'll implement the Declaration for Future Generations that will emphasize the role of youth and future generations in shaping global policies, including enhancing youth participation in decision-making and ensuring that long-term impacts on future generations are considered in policy development. These initiatives, when implemented through enhanced international cooperation and partnerships with various stakeholders, will produce concrete outcomes that will shape international relations and global governance in the years to come. We are confident that the landmark documents we will adopt at the Summit of the Future will provide opportunities that will contribute to reinvigorating the foundations of our existing multilateral system, which have been challenged by the COVID-19 pandemic, the ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza, new challenges like cyber warfare and emerging technologies, food and energy insecurity, and the planetary crisis. Be assured that the Philippines will always be an active partner in all collaborative endeavors in charting a course for a more inclusive, resilient, sustainable, and rules-based global order. Thank you, and mabuhay.
President Mbumba, Prime Minister Scholz, Secretary General Guterres, and distinguished representatives. I welcome the convening of the Summit of the Future. Today, advancements in new technologies have enriched human life. But such development also has its shadow. The international community faces complex challenges, from geopolitical and geoeconomic tensions to various conflicts and climate crisis. In order to overcome these challenges, members of the international community must stand in solidarity and cooperate with each other. We already have shown collective wisdom in the past. Our predecessors, who witnessed the destruction of human dignity through 2 world wars, established the United Nations as a mechanism for multilateral cooperation. They worked hard to enable a rules-based international order to take deep root and to promote peace and prosperity in the international community. We must work harder and more closely together to hand down a better world to future generations. To build a future that is inclusive, sustainable, and just, we are called upon to pool our wisdom and strengthen our solidarity. With the help of the UN, the Republic of Korea safeguarded its freedom from a desperate crisis and built a prosperous nation with the power of freedom and solidarity. Now, aspiring to emerge as a global pivotal state, Korea will actively contribute to promoting global peace and prosperity. As a member of the Security Council for the 2024-2025 term, we will work closely with UN member states to live up to our responsibility in promoting peace on the Korean Peninsula, in the Indo-Pacific region, and across the globe.
나갈 것입니다. 글로벌 개발
Korea is committed to closing the global development gap.
기여하겠습니다.
Since joining the Development Assistance Committee in 2010,
2010년
our official development assistance has increased more than fourfold, and this year we have expanded it to its largest scale ever. In June, we hosted the Korea-Africa Summit, seeking to strengthen partnerships aimed at creating a future of shared growth with African countries. We will in particular advance the Tech for Africa initiative, which aims to support digital capabilities of the youth in Africa. Korea will also strive to play a leading role in international cooperation to uphold and promote the rules-based international order founded on freedom, human rights, and the rule of law. Our hosting of the Third Summit for Democracy in March, which strengthened solidarity for democracy for future generations, is part of such efforts. I hope this Summit of the Future will serve as an opportunity to strengthen inter-regional and international solidarity under the UN and to mark a new beginning to jointly build a future of freedom, peace, and prosperity with our future generations. Thank you.
Excellencies, Mr. Secretary General, the Republic of San Marino firmly believes in dialogue, democracy, and respect for others as founding values for peaceful coexistence among peoples, and is also convinced that the Summit for the Future, together with its final declaration, the Pact for the Future, will represent a milestone for multilateralism, paving the way for the construction of a present and a future of peace. Ongoing wars, migration, climate change, and the increasing number of catastrophic weather events, poverty and inequalities have confirmed once again that no state can succeed alone and without collective action and the full involvement of all actors of the international arena. Therefore, the Republic of San Marino relies on the central role of the United Nations as a forum for solving global problems through a new impulse for the multilateral system and through the strengthening of the UN institution, so that they continue to represent a beacon for the protection of peace and human rights.
The Summit of the Future must pave the way towards actions that lead to a safe, peaceful, fair, equal and sustainable world. To this end, the Republic of San Marino also undertakes to follow the actions identified in the Pact for the Future. Such ambitious challenges and goals, which, as we would like to emphasize once again, go beyond the capacities of individual countries, can only be achieved collectively through strong international cooperation. Small-sized states, which also include San Marino, have always strongly supported international law, attributing fundamental importance to the entire UN system, and therefore to international cooperation in general. Indeed, in the case of small states, international law is seen as the one and the only safeguard in the event of threat to their existence, and multilateral fora represent a valuable megaphone to make their voices heard. San Marino will take part in the Summit of the Future by actively contributing to the search for collective solutions for a future of peace and dialogue, a better and more sustainable future for us and for future generations in accordance with international law, including the UN Charter.
Mr. President, Mr. Chancellor, Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Switzerland is concerned about the state of international relations. The global security situation is grave. Human rights and international humanitarian law are being disregarded, and the international order has become more chaotic and unstable in recent years. However, this does not mean that the multilateralism has failed. There are still many states around the world that are endeavoring to maintain a rules-based order. What is crucial is to have the strategic determination and political will to foster multilateralism. It is clear that we need to work together to develop effective measures to tackle unprecedented global challenges such as climate change. In view of this situation, the Summit of the Future offers an important opportunity to set the course for renewed strengthening of multilateralism and more consistent implementation of the 2030 Agenda. One requirement for this is that the wording of the Pact for the Future should enable significant progress to be made in the areas of peace, human rights and sustainable development. It is essential that it is based on the principles of international law and the rule of law, while also creating incentives for conflict prevention, the further development of global governance structures and the strengthening of the UN. You are well aware of how much work has gone into drafting this text over the past few months. Now we need to get it over the finishing line. It is clear that we will never agree on everything, but it is about setting the right priorities together. That means that we have to be willing to compromise. Switzerland will continue to advocate for strong multilateralism in the future. In our view, it is essential that states jointly commit to principles of order to ensure stability. Such principles must be agreed upon, be of mutual interest, and be respected by all. We already have a multilateral system with the UN at its center. The Pact for the Future can help us to adapt this system to meet today's challenges. Let's seize this opportunity.
Muhtaram Janobi Nangolo Mbumba,
Your Excellency Mr. Nangolo Mbumba, President of the Republic of Namibia, Your Excellency Mr. Olaf Scholz, Federal Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Your Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to express my gratitude to the Republic of Namibia and the Federal Republic of Germany for hosting this important event as part of the preparatory process for the Summit of the Future. The Summit of the Future is not only another event on the international agenda, but also a favorable opportunity to develop joint actions to solve global problems. And we must use its platform to shape a multipolar system in compliance with the main principles of the United Nations Charter. The upcoming summit, while providing us with an opportunity to ensure security and stability in today's world and for the future generations, also calls for taking ambitious actions in the name of constructive accomplishments and mutual support. I am confident that through solidarity we can achieve positive outcomes. We expect that the outcomes of the summit will provide us with an opportunity to identify and coordinate our aspirations and measures to respond to current challenges of the modern era, particularly in terms of pressing issues of sustainable development of least developed, developing countries and small island developing states. As this important forum approaches, I call on all heads of state and governments to participate in the upcoming summit and to contribute directly to the plans and decisions that will be taken. We must unite to address the growing challenges of our time, including climate change, unprecedented warming, frequent droughts, increasing natural disasters, decreasing water and food resources, as well as sanitation and healthcare. Water scarcity, particularly threatening the well-being of billions of people worldwide, remains a fundamental obstacle to sustainable development. We need to give priority attention to this problem and make efforts to ensure fair access to this invaluable resource for the achievement of the creative goals of humanity. I call on heads of state and government to make their effective contribution to the adoption and implementation of the outcome document of the Summit of the Future, the Pact for the Future. The implementation of the commitments we have made will undoubtedly play an important role in ensuring a bright future for humanity. In the context of joint cooperation and mutual understanding, we will be able to give a positive impetus to the process of ensuring peace, stability, and sustainable development throughout the world. Thank you for your attention.
Distinguished heads of state and government, Honorable Secretary General, I extend my most heartfelt greetings to you with the utmost respect. It is only a matter of days until the Summit of the Future, which aims to fortify international solidarity in the face of threats to the future of humanity and facilitate the establishment of a peaceful, secure, and equitable system. In the midst of the conflicts, oppression, hunger, and poverty that are ravaging our world, I perceive the summit as a rare window of opportunity. I urge all of my counterparts attending the summit to fully embrace this opportunity presented by Mr. Guterres. In order to build a prosperous and secure future, it is imperative that we first establish peace. Challenges such as terrorism, Islamophobia and xenophobia, irregular migration, and climate change are exacerbating geopolitical shocks. We have witnessed the most distressing examples of this in the occupied Palestinian territories, particularly in Gaza, for the past 11 months. Over 41,000 individuals, including 17,000 children, have tragically lost their lives, with more than 100,000 people suffering injuries and the vast majority of Gaza left devastated. The international community, particularly the United Nations, should raise their voices and express strong opposition to Israel's policies of occupation. In a world where children are dying from bombs, I must be honest with you that none of us can feel secure. As Turkey, we are committed to standing against oppression and supporting the oppressed. We will not waver in our dedication to this humanitarian stance. Distinguished guests, we need to establish a global governance structure that provides fair representation not only for certain prosperous nations, but also for societies that are still working towards development. In order to create a brighter future, it is crucial that we shift towards a system that prioritizes green transition, is climate resilient, supports sustainable development, and leaves no one behind. We need to safeguard our democracies from the harmful effects of hate speech, racism, and far-right movements that have a detrimental impact on our societies. In order to accomplish all of these objectives, it is necessary to reshape the multilateral system around the principles of justice and equity, with the motto, "The world is bigger than five," as a focal point. I would like to invite world leaders to come together and work towards achieving these goals at the Summit of the Future. As I conclude my remarks, I would like to extend my respect and greetings to each of you.
Today, our world stands at an inflection point where the decisions we make now are going to determine the course of our future for decades to come. And it's on all of us, each of us, to set on a stronger and safer path. That's what the Summit for the Future is all about. Coming together to forge a better world for future generations. Pulling together to meet the challenges of our time. Disease, hunger, climate change, record displacement. Raging conflicts in Ukraine, Sudan, and Gaza. This is the moment to reaffirm our commitment to the UN Charter and Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And, to think hard about how we have to reform the global institutions to be more effective and more inclusive. Look, I want you to know that in every one of these challenges, the United States is with you. We're going to keep pushing for stronger, more effective United Nations and a reformed and expanded UN Security Council. And we're going to keep driving toward a sustainable development goals so people everywhere can live with dignity. Look, I'm very proud under my administration that the United States has invested more than $150 billion to achieve the sustainable development goals and mobilize billions more from the private sector to do the same. On artificial intelligence, we'll seek to build on the global consensus we achieved in the General Assembly to seize the potential and mitigate the risk for all people. Let me close with this. History's watching. Will we act with the urgency and purpose to meet the moment? Will we decide to come together and set our future on a fundamentally better path? I believe we can. I believe the answer is yes. I believe we will. We can, we must, we will. Thank you. Let's not give up on this. Like I said, this is an incredible inflection point.
Excellencies, we look forward to the Summit of the Future with confidence and high aspirations for a peaceful, prosperous and beautiful world where people are at the heart of all policies and actions. We hope this historic summit will bring about new thinking and new modus operandi for the world's future. It presents great opportunity for the United Nations and multilateralism to reaffirm their irreplaceable values in face of today's tremendous challenges. Vietnam will actively contribute to the summit and to our collective efforts to strengthen peace, cooperation and international solidarity with a view to effectively implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. We will relentlessly strive to ensure that the people fully enjoy development achievements and future generations are well prepared for the paths ahead. In that spirit, I urge the summit to focus its deliberation on finding transformative solutions to the challenges we face. Above all, transformation must begin with advances in science, technology and innovation. The United Nations must take the lead in establishing legal frameworks for information sharing and assisting countries in safely and securely developing groundbreaking technologies such as digital technology, artificial intelligence and automation. The latest achievements in science and technology should be accessible for all countries in a fair, meaningful and inclusive manner. Second, the world's sustainable development is closely tied to green transformation, especially green technology, green energy and green finance. We therefore propose the establishment of a global green technology platform where ASEAN and other regional organizations can share their experience and promote green technology development. Third, transformation of global governance is pivotal. The United Nations and multilateral financial institutions must be strengthened to effectively address current and future challenges and mobilize critical resources to support developing countries. We strongly believe that with substantive cooperation and concrete actions, we can achieve the summit's goals and lay a solid foundation for future generations.
Excellencies, I extend my profound appreciation to His Excellency Chancellor Olaf Scholz and His Excellency President Ngolo Mbumba for hosting this summit for the future. We look forward with great expectations to the adoption of the Pact of the Future at this summit. I congratulate the Secretary General Antonio Guterres for this visionary initiative, which presents us with the opportunity to demonstrate our commitment to multilateralism and collective action as a panacea to present and the future challenges. Excellencies, the Sustainable Development Goals are a practical indication of our universal commitment to end poverty, protect our planet, and guarantee peace and prosperity for all by 2030. Yet, with less than 6 years remaining, the realization of this vision is under significant threat. Zimbabwe, therefore, looks forward to a summit that will boost the implementation of existing commitments and proffer solutions to new challenges. We cannot pay lip service to the dire impacts of climate change, which continue to affect the most vulnerable societies. To ensure sustainable development, climate financing must be supported, especially by international financial institutions and multilateral development banks. Matters relating to the Global Digital Compact, the growing influence of artificial intelligence in the socioeconomic and technological development matrix requires robust frameworks for the safe deployment of technology in addressing the challenges and opportunities of our time. There is need to restore trust across all multilateral platforms. Reforms of the Security Council and international financial architecture remain a priority. The removal of the albatross of unilateral coercive measures has become an urgent imperative. The new agenda for peace must see our countries manage competition and find pragmatic solutions to global problems. Zimbabwe stands ready to play its part so that the outcomes of this summit bring the world back on track towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Let us seize this moment to renew our collective resolve to work together in unity and solidarity. I thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to express my sincere gratitude to the German and Namibian governments for their tireless work in preparing the Pact for the Future, which will be adopted at the Summit of the Future in the coming weeks. The actions taken at the forthcoming summit will define the world that future generations will inherit. In this regard, we must act together with determination and urgency. The role of the United Nations as a peacekeeper is more crucial than ever, and therefore its conflict resolution mechanisms need to be more effective. Andorra reaffirms its call for dialogue, which is the key to ensuring peace and security and for the respect of the rule of law, especially of international humanitarian law. Peace means building societies where justice prevails, human rights are respected, and democracy flourishes. We must not forget today's urgent commitments, such as achieving the Sustainable Development Goals under the Agenda 2030. The eradication of poverty and hunger will lay the foundation for a future where everyone can thrive. Promoting multilingualism and embracing cultural diversity enrich societies. Indeed, in an increasingly interconnected world, it promotes better understanding and reinforces social cohesion and resilience. Furthermore, the rights of the individual must also be protected. This means ensuring that everyone, regardless of their gender, race, religion, or background, can live in dignity and freedom. The artificial intelligence requires a balanced, inclusive, and risk-based governance. So we need to be vigilant in protecting digital rights for the benefit of humanity. The future will be shaped by innovation, and it is imperative that we harness technology for the common good. This also means empowering future generations with the knowledge, guidance, and skills they need to navigate in a rapidly changing world. At the same time, we must steer technological innovation to ensure a human rights and gender-balanced approach that addresses digital gaps. The climate crisis is not merely an environmental issue. It is an existential threat. It affects all ecosystems, including mountain territories. We should continue to persist in advocating for more ambitious targets, ensuring that nations are held accountable for their emissions and promoting for a sustainable economic growth. Let us all join forces to secure a future for generations to come. To this end, you can count on the support of the Principality of Andorra. Thank you for your attention.
Esteemed members of the international community, our world is at a crossroad. Unsure which way we shall go, we are facing unprecedented developments that bring both tremendous opportunities and formidable uncertainties. Now more than ever, multilateralism and cooperation are needed to drive collective action in addressing shared and individual challenges. The Pact of the Future represents a bold vision for global cooperation rooted in principles of inclusivity, sustainability, resilience, and innovation. By embracing this vision, nations can forge a pathway towards a more equitable and sustainable world where collective action addresses the most urgent challenges of our time. Small island developing states are all too familiar with being left behind as the climate upends our homelands, resulting in biodiversity loss, thereby undermining sustainable development. In addition, our countries have had to contend with the attendant unsustainable debt, pandemics, and other exogenous shocks which left us even more vulnerable. Instead of the powerful exercising empathy and compassion, they further exploit the power asymmetries, exercising their brutal philosophy of might over right. The pact must be our solemn promise, a commitment to ensuring lasting peace, eradicating poverty, addressing inequality and health disparities, while ensuring shared development for all and saving our planet from the devastating ravages of climate change. Here again, nations exercise their might in prioritizing their selfish profit motives through the profligate use of fossil fuels at the expense of the powerless. The Pact of the Future is an invitation for the formation of a new framework for global cooperation that galvanizes nations, organizations, and global institutions to work together towards a more resilient and prosperous future for all. Excellencies, for this new era of global cooperation to become a reality, this requires unwavering commitment, collaboration, and a shared belief among stakeholders in the power of collective action. Whilst we navigate global uncertainties, especially among the world's vulnerable nations like Antigua and Barbuda, the urgency must be to bolster international solidarity and cooperation. We must acknowledge the interconnectivity of our challenges: climate change, economic uncertainty, pandemics, and conflicts, among others. In order to effectively address these challenges, we must reignite multilateralism and ensure that there is a bright future for generations to come. As world leaders, we must declare our unwavering support for the United Nations, an institution that must be empowered financially and politically to meet today's challenges. We must strive to build robust institutions that earn the trust and confidence of all. By so doing, We are ensuring that the United Nations and other multilateral organizations remain capable of responding effectively to both current and emerging crises. We must adopt a people-centered approach. Investing heavily in future generations is certainly an imperative. Our duty is to empower future generations to flourish in a world that is equitable, inclusive, and sustainable. Achieving these require bold, united action, fueled by a spirit of shared responsibility and a commitment to inclusivity, ensuring that no one or no country, no matter how small or vulnerable, is left behind. Only through sustained collective efforts can we successfully confront the multifaceted existential threats we currently face. As we look ahead to the summit of the future in the coming days, let us come together with determined hearts and a unified purpose. We should forge ahead with unwavering determination and hope for a better future. I thank you.
Honorable President Mabumba, Honorable Chancellor Scholz, Honorable Secretary General Guterres, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to address this high-level event and share Armenia's expectations from the Summit of the Future. As the world is currently facing severe challenges and multiple crises, the Summit of the Future provides an important opportunity to boost collective efforts to ensure that the multilateral system is delivering peace, justice, prosperity, and respect for human rights for all. The current pace of international developments shows that we are still heading in opposite directions, when the United Nations is still in need of necessary tools and mechanisms of prevention and accountability to address major breaches of international law, notably gross human rights violations and atrocity crimes. A reinvigorated multilateralism based on the UN Charter and international law is the answer to the global security and development challenges for the benefit of current and future generations and for ensuring that all voices are heard and no one is left behind. From this perspective, the Pact for the Future is a milestone document for giving a new breath to multilateralism with the United Nations at its heart. Armenia was actively engaged in negotiations of the Pact for the Future to elaborate progressive and meaningful actions to pave the way for a better, safer, more peaceful and inclusive world. We look forward to the discussions during the Summit of the Future to lay the groundwork for reform of global governance, international peace architecture, ensuring environmental justice, bridging the technological divide, and making the United Nations fit for delivering on its mandate. I wish to all of us a successful Summit of the Future and look forward to participating in that pivotal endeavor.
Дами и господа, България твърдо вярва, че ефективният мултилатерализъм и глобалните партньорства са най-успешните средства за управление на международните отношения в интерес на всички държави и общества. Приемането на амбициозен пакт за бъдещето ще бъде забележително постижение, тъй като ще потвърди отново ангажираността към принципите и целите на Устава на ООН и целите за устойчиво развитие. Документът ще демонстрира решимостта на международната общност за постигане на напредък в процеса на съживяване на многостранна система, която да е способна да гарантира мир и сигурност и да е в състояние да се справя с възникващите предизвикателства. България се стреми да постигне напредък по дневния ред 2030 чрез цифровизацията и новите технологии. Целта е постигане на свободен и сигурен цифров свят с универсален достъп. Осъзнаваме предизвикателствата на цифровото неравенство и призоваваме за увеличаване на инвестициите в изграждането на цифрови умения, особено за уязвимите групи от населението и бързо адаптиране към технологичните промени. Подкрепяме глобалния цифров договор като пътна карта за дигитално бъдеще, ориентирано към човека и гарантиращо основните права и свободи. Това важи и за използването на технологии, като изкуствения интелект, за постигане на целите на устойчивото развитие и гарантиране на истинността на информацията. Необходимо е да интегрираме възгледите и интересите на младите и бъдещите поколения в нашите политики и вземането на решение. Това започва с осигуряване на ефективно участие, което изисква и воля да слушаме и да се учим от младите хора. Успехът на срещата на върха на бъдещето е изпитание за способността ни да осигурим бъдеще, в което хората живеят сигурно, в зачитане на тяхното достоинство, техните общности и околната среда. В крайна сметка, това е нашия дълг към бъдещите поколения, чиято креативност и иновативно мислене могат да дадат решения за глобалните предизвикателства, като изменението на климата, неравенството и геополитическото напрежение. Преди 2 месеца група млади българи направиха симулация на резултата от срещата на върха за бъдещето. Те ясно показаха, че когато има воля, има и начин за реализирането й. Изпратиха послание за спешност и доверие към нас, техните представители. Нека не ги разочароваме. Благодаря за вниманието.
His Excellency Nangolo Mbumba, President of the Republic of Namibia. His Excellency Olaf Scholz, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany. His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. Excellencies, distinguished delegates. It is a great honor for Cambodia to join this global call as we come together to shape the future of our world. The Summit of the Future is a crucial moment to renew our shared commitment to addressing the challenges that lie ahead, challenges that touch every nation. Cambodia brings to the pact for the future a perspective shaped by our nation's journey. Emerging from the shadows of conflict, we have learned that peace is the foundation upon which all progress is built. Our history shows that without peace, goals like ending poverty, providing quality education, addressing climate change, and achieving sustainable economic development become far more challenging. This experience reminds us just how critical it is to work together toward our shared global goals. Cambodia is proud to play a significant role in global peacekeeping. Since 2006, we have sent over 9,000 of our peoples to serve in 11 UN missions, including over 800 women. Our teams have been key in offering crucial services, especially in the mining efforts. These contributions not only show our commitment to global peace, but also highlight the importance of inclusive participation in maintaining security and stability worldwide. Our commitment to protecting the environment is equally strong. Through the REDD+ program, Cambodia actively contributes to global efforts against climate change. Additionally, our Climate Change Strategic Plan 2014-2023 outlines our approach to dealing with climate change, focusing on key areas like agriculture, water, and public health. These efforts are part of our broader strategy to ensure that sustainable economic development is achieved alongside environmental protections. In terms of digital transformations, Cambodia is making great strides in closing the digital divide and promoting digital literacy. Our digital economy and society Policy Framework 2021-2035 sets the stage for a digital futures and digital inclusion, recognizing that fair access to technology is key to fostering innovation and driving sustainable economic development. Engaging our youth is also a central part of Cambodia's strategy for the future. We are committed to involving young people in shaping our nation's path forwards. National initiatives aimed at empowering and involving youth highlight our dedications to making sure that their voices are heard in both national and global arenas. Human rights are at the core of our national visions. We are determined to ensuring that our nation's progress is inclusive and just. In closing, Cambodia reaffirms its dedications to the principles of the United Nations and the goals of the Pact for the Future. Our history is a testament to the power of peace, and as a nation, we stand ready to fully engage with the international community to ensure that peace, sustainability, and shared prosperity become lasting realities for all. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. For nearly 80 years, the United Nations has brought world leaders together to confront the most pressing challenges of our time. When we meet later this month, I think we have a unique opportunity to put the next generation at the center of our mission. The Summit of the Future at the UN is a chance for us to focus on the actions we can take now to build a better world for young people and for everyone. Not only a more peaceful world, but one where everyone has a fair shot. That's the promise of Canada and of so many nations, that if you work hard, you can do as well as or better than your parents did. But too many people today feel like that future is out of reach. They're coming of age amidst a rapidly changing labor market, a high cost of living, and a growing gap between the wealthy few and the middle class. In Canada, we're meeting this moment by investing in our people. We've created a national affordable childcare program so that parents don't have to choose between their family and their career. We've made massive investments in public health care, and we've just launched a national dental care program so that people who don't have coverage can get the care they need. And we're rolling out the most ambitious housing plan our country has ever seen. That's what we're focused on at home. But the challenges we're tackling in Canada are shared around the world. The question of how we leave the next generation a better, fairer future is a global one, and it demands global leadership. So I'm looking forward to working with leaders from governments, civil society, and business at the United Nations to confront this challenge, share solutions, and adopt an ambitious, action-oriented pact for the future. We can do this. So many of the challenges facing us today can become opportunities of tomorrow if we face them now together. Thank you all.
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, today's crises are many and unparalleled in a modern generation. They present interlinked, compounded risks. Simultaneous geopolitical, economic, societal, environmental challenges require action, solidarity, and growing trust. The Summit of the Future is an opportunity that we must collectively seize. It is a chance to join forces at a critical juncture. The Pact for the Future that we are about to adopt should offer us a viable plan. We should make it as ambitious as we can. Our aspirations must not only match, but should aim to surpass the challenges we face. When we gather for the summit later this month, we need to show the world and our citizens that we do not lack determination or vision. A strengthened and effective multilateralism is needed to reduce risks and accelerate transformation. Here, respect for international law and the UN Charter is paramount. We need political will and decisiveness to make our global governance more equitable and more representative. Dear friends, I'm proud to note that Croatia has been making substantial progress in implementing Sustainable Development Goals, reaching 8th place in the overall SDG ranking. We are proud that this result happened hand in hand with accelerated economic growth, proving that sustainable development is possible. Our further efforts must be swift, clear and focused on sustainable development, climate, protecting biodiversity and reversing environmental degradation. Evidence-based decision-making embedded in science and innovation is key. Technology, especially digital technology, is one of the main enablers for transforming our economies, societies, and protecting the environment. The pact will also be a roadmap for cooperation with all stakeholders, from governments to civil society and the private sector. Our success will depend on our resolve. For its part, Croatia stands ready to work with all to make both the summit and the pact a joint and lasting success. Thank you.
Excellencies and dear friends, 10 days from now the world will gather in New York for the Summit of the Future. The summit is a window of opportunity for us, an opportunity to underline our shared commitment to the future. But it is also very much a window of necessity. We face great challenges: poverty, climate crisis, debt burdens, global division and war. And no country can tackle this alone. Everyone is needed. At Summit of the Future, we must show that we can come together to rebuild trust, to recommit to international cooperation, and to make our global institutions more representative, inclusive and just, do away with underrepresentation of Africa, and ensure the needed reforms of our international financial institutions, to get a system that delivers better for all. The decisions we make today will define the future for generations to come, and young people and future generations must have a bigger voice. Next year, Denmark will join the UN Security Council, an important responsibility under difficult circumstances. We will work constructively with fellow members for a more peaceful, present and a safer future. Let me end by thanking Germany and Namibia for steering us through a month of negotiations. I look forward to participating in the Summit of the Future. It is our window of opportunity and necessity. Thank you.
Excellencies, it's an honor to address you on behalf of Georgia. I would like to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency Mr. Nangolo Bumba, President of the Republic of Namibia, and His Excellency Mr. Olaf Scholz, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, for initiating Summit of the Future Global Call as we prepare for convening the summit. The Summit of the Future comes at a critical juncture and represents an exceptional opportunity to address the challenges of today's generation while shaping a better future for the generations to come. We are eager to contribute to global solutions while also addressing our national priorities that are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. We have successfully incorporated the SDGs into our national agenda, ensuring that our strategic priorities reflect the goals and targets set within the framework of our unique national context, challenges and opportunities. The compounded effects of climate change, ongoing conflicts and wars, widespread human rights violations, and growing economic and food insecurity pose formidable challenge to our efforts. International collaboration and solidarity are the only way forward to address these global threats and fulfill the promise of the 2030 Agenda to leave no one behind. Let us also remember that the summit is merely the beginning of a longer journey. We must work diligently to build on the momentum generated and translate the summit's achievements into meaningful and lasting change. This requires sustained effort, strategic planning, and continuous engagement from all stakeholders, governments, civil society, private sector, and international organizations alike. To achieve our shared aspirations, we need to adopt an ambitious and action-oriented pact for a better future with the accompanying documents, which offers ways to catalyze transformative changes within reinvigorated multilateral system towards achieving peace, prosperity, and sustainable development. For Georgia, this pact represents an opportunity to strengthen our commitment to democratic principles, enhance regional cooperation, and integrate fully into the global community while addressing the unique challenges we face. By doing so, we can ensure that we all contribute to the collective efforts to build a more just, equitable, and sustainable world. It is important to acknowledge that the dedication and able leadership of the pact's co-facilitators, Namibia and Germany, have been instrumental in reaching this milestone. In conclusion, let me underscore Georgia's steadfast commitment to the summit's successful outcome. Let's move forward together to make a future that brings peace and prosperity to people in every corner of our planet.
Good morning from a warm and sunny Athens, and thank you very much for offering me this opportunity to speak briefly about the importance of the upcoming Summit of the Future. Your Excellencies, we stand today at a pivotal moment in world history. Nearly 8 decades on from the creation of the United Nations, we are reflecting on the profound commitment made by our predecessors to safeguard future generations from the scourge of war. Today, the world faces a new set of complex challenges: conflicts, poverty, climate change, economic inequalities, and disruptive technologies that demand a renewed commitment to an effective multilateralism. The Summit of the Future offers a unique opportunity to achieve progress on multiple fronts. A major landmark will be the adoption of the Pact for the Future, a forward-looking, action-oriented document designed to address the urgent needs and interests of both present and future generations. We can all agree that the Pact represents the culmination of extensive negotiations with diverse stakeholders, including academia, civil society, and young people, reflecting a broad spectrum of ideas and aspirations. Among other things, the Pact reaffirms our dedication to international law, sustainable development, and global peace, while committing us to harness science, technology, and innovation. Greece is up to the challenge. As a founding member of the UN and an incoming Security Council member for the term 2025-2026, we are committed to making a positive contribution to the negotiations for the Pact. We underscored the need to go back to the basics of the UN, to reaffirm a commitment to the core principles of the UN Charter, such as the peaceful settlement of disputes and the respect of international law. And we joined our voices with many fellow member states who emphasize our shared responsibility to uphold and reform our multilateral system in an inclusive and forward-thinking manner. We are ready for our Pact for the Future, and I'm convinced that the summit will be a success, allowing us to effectively renew the promise first made in San Francisco 79 years ago, and ensuring that the values and principles of the UN Charter continue to guide us today as we strive to work towards a world of peace, justice, and human dignity.
Mesdames et messieurs, notre monde est à la croisée des chemins. Les défis globaux auxquels nous sommes confrontés sont interconnectés et couvrent, entre autres, les changements climatiques, les inégalités économiques, l'instabilité géopolitique, l'accès inégal aux ressources et aux technologies. Je réaffirme une conviction partagée, celle que l'avenir ne doit pas être subi, mais construit. Cet avenir, nous avons le pouvoir de le façonner ensemble si nous faisons le choix de la coopération, de la justice et du progrès inclusif. Avec vous, la République de Guinée est engagée à relever les défis actuels qui nous interpellent dans la voie de la construction d'un meilleur avenir pour tous. Nous avons fait de l'éducation, de la santé, de l'accès à l'énergie, aux infrastructures de qualité, ainsi que la répartition des richesses, des priorités pour préparer notre jeunesse à contribuer à l'essor de notre nation et du continent africain tout entier. La République de Guinée s'inscrit dans le pacte pour l'avenir avec 3 sujets majeurs qui méritent une attention particulière. Le premier est relatif à l'appui d'une coopération dynamique pour la stabilité. En cette période de transition, il est essentiel que la Guinée soit soutenue par une coopération internationale renforcée et solidaire. Une Guinée stable et prospère est un facteur de stabilité pour l'Afrique de l'Ouest. En effet, notre pays est la digue de la stabilité de la région. Ensuite, celui de la protection et la reconnaissance internationale du massif du Fouta-Djallon. Le massif du Fouta-Djallon, véritable château d'eau de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, alimente une dizaine d'États en ressources hydriques vitales. Il est de notre devoir de protéger cet écosystème unique. C'est pourquoi nous plaidons pour son inscription sur la liste du patrimoine mondial de l'humanité. Enfin, la gestion de la migration des jeunes. Ce phénomène est une tragédie qui reflète à la fois des aspirations légitimes et des défis socio-économiques. Il est impératif pour nos États en transformation de trouver les approches endogènes avec l'appui de nos partenaires internationaux pour recréer l'espoir au niveau des jeunes. Le monde est sujet à la montée des risques et des menaces, mais il recèle aussi des opportunités que nous devons saisir. Ce sommet doit aller dans cette direction pour le bonheur de l'humanité. Je vous remercie.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to join the heads of state and government of the UN member states in this global call leading to the Summit of the Future. The world today is experiencing multifaceted challenges. Global peace is under threat. Geopolitical tensions are escalating at both regional and international levels, and yet no signs of ending. Economic downturn persists, and severity and more frequent occurrences of natural disasters are increasing. Against this backdrop, the summit provides an important platform for world leaders to review factors that lead to these challenges and to find root causes and adopt appropriate solutions. Therefore, I am of the view that the international community must enhance mutual trust and solidarity while promoting and strengthening a more just, inclusive, and effective multilateral system with the United Nations at the center that serves the interest of all nations and people. The Pact for the Future must elaborate clear and well-defined measures and lay out future directions towards safeguarding global peace and security, addressing monumental challenges under the realm of a multilateral system that adapts to the changing political and economic landscape and technological advancement, while ensuring environmental sustainability and the well-being of future generations. Additionally, it must also target the acceleration of SDG implementation that has fallen behind. The Lao PDR firmly believes that this summit and the Pact for the Future will serve as a beacon of hope for all. The Lao PDR will support the implementation of the Pact with efficacy. We strongly call upon the international community to not only renew the commitments, but also turn these commitments into actionable outcomes. Last but not least, I hope this summit succeeds in its goals and set a journey that fosters international peace and security, sustainable development, and shared prosperity for all, so that no one and no country is left behind. Thank you.
Excellencies, When Liechtenstein applied for membership of the United Nations back in 1990, safeguarding our sovereignty was a key incentive. We have certainly benefited greatly from over 3 decades of membership. At the same time, there is also a sense of frustration, occasionally also disappointment among the people of Liechtenstein. They expect the United Nations to be the guardian of peace and security, as the organization that stands up for the sovereign equality of all states, large and small, the guarantor of the rule of law and the protection against those who believe that might makes right. Too often, these expectations have been thwarted. We do not agree with those who are resigned to the dictates of realpolitik. Instead, we believe that the United Nations can still do valuable work to address the challenges of climate change, humanitarian disaster and global health crisis, amongst others. But at its core, the United Nations remains a peace organization created to save future generations from the scourge of war. A mission that we are realizing in Europe is of more urgent relevance than we had hoped. As we prepare for the Summit of the Future and to adopt an ambitious and action-oriented pact, I encourage all to keep expectations high. We must better equip the Security Council to make good on its primary responsibility for peace and security entrusted to it by the drafters of the United Nations Charter. We must strengthen tools for preventing blatant and far-reaching violations of the Charter, such as the aggression we have seen against Ukraine. And we must further invest in strengthening the General Assembly. By presenting the veto initiative, we have ensured that a veto in the Council is no longer the last word and that the General Assembly can take decisions when the Council is unable to do so. Excellencies, the complex and diverse challenges we face today, from climate change to nuclear threats, from impunity for international crimes to sea level rise, all require responses based on international law. Liechtenstein will continue its consistent and principled engagement for the rule of law at the United Nations. I look forward to joining you all in an ambitious and impactful summit that resonates well beyond New York and sets the stage for a peaceful, just, inclusive and prosperous future for all. I thank you.
Excellency Olaf Scholz, Chancellor of the Republic of Germany, Excellency Nangolo Mumba, President of the Republic of Namibia, and Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. 67 years ago, Malaysia took her place among the global community of nations. It was a defining moment as Malaysia etched her commitments and aspirations in the Assembly Hall of the United Nations. Then, as a fledgling democracy, Malaysia galvanized the strength derived from the unity of a multiracial, multi-religious society and the instrumental support of the United Nations to adapt, to prosper, and to lead. And our illustrious journey is marked by our continuing support for multilateralism and the principles and values of the Charter of the United Nations. Looking ahead, we must ask ourselves, what future are we envisaging and for who, when? People are still dying of hunger and disease. Divide between the global south and north grows wider and deeper, leaving many behind. Conflicts continue to rage, and impunity reigns supreme as international law is violated. The institutions that we have placed our hope and trust are paralyzed or unable to respond effectively. The stark reality is that while we continue to ponder on the dismal state of global affairs and weigh solutions, we persist in repeating past mistakes as history unfolds itself. While we possess no shortage of knowledge, mechanisms, and expertise, yet we are desperately searching for solutions. In our interconnected world, the challenges confronting us are becoming more intricate, transcending not only borders but also the atmosphere, depth of the ocean, and deepest of the lush rainforest. Neither limitations in global diplomacy nor archaic practices can withhold us from moving ahead. We can no longer afford to act indifferently. Malaysia urges the international community to prioritize two actions. First, reform across the international system is no longer an option, but a crucial necessity. The global mechanisms must be fit for purpose to this day and age. Second, as history teaches us, inasmuch as political will is the key to success, mastering it is a moral and a legal obligation of each and every one of us. Global solutions will be rendered futile if regional and national grassroots are not part of them. Therefore, in tandem with our global call, at the heart of Malaysia's ASEAN chairmanship next year, policies and mechanisms that are truly able to galvanize and mutually reinforce the nexus among peace, stability, and prosperity will be prioritized. This is because peace, stability, and prosperity are the hard-won gains that ASEAN owes to its people and the international community. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me assure you of Malaysia's resolve. We will continue to be a constructive partner of the United Nations and a loyal proponent of multilateralism. The summit of the future is the right track to redemption for us to make sound decisions collectively that will shape a thriving tomorrow for all. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, esteemed colleagues, every politician thinks that their own era is defined by the biggest and toughest challenges the world has ever seen. And although I wish things were different, unfortunately, in our case, it's true. Our world is changing fast, and there is a lot at stake. There's too much at stake to lose any more time. That's why I value the Summit of the Future, and why I value the leadership shown by President Bumba and Chancellor Scholz in developing the Pact for the Future. It's a name that clearly and precisely reflects the goal, a future full of opportunity for all people, both now and in the decades ahead, a future of hope and possibility. I'm proud of the contribution that Jamaica and the Kingdom of the Netherlands have made to this goal with the Declaration of Future Generations. The aim of this declaration, which we will be presenting at the summit, is simple: to help ensure that in every decision we make today, we think about its impact on people tomorrow. However big our ambitions for the future may be, I'm convinced they can be achieved, because that future is rooted in our common past, our sense of global community, of working together across countries and cultures, with a strong UN at the heart of everything we do. It is that past which shows what we can achieve when we join forces. It is that past which still inspires us today. And it is that past which gives us confidence in the future. Thank you.
Excellencies, colleagues, and dear friends. As the Summit of the Future approaches, it is vital that our ambitions remain high. To deliver on the SDGs, we must transform global governance. We need the multilateral system to be effective, transparent, and representative. So the Pact for the Future must affirm that our multilateral efforts are rooted in international law, including human rights law. It must also uphold the importance of women's rights and gender equality. We cannot afford to miss this opportunity, and all this needs to come together. In my country, Norway's view, the Pact must address at least 3 central aspects. Then let me touch briefly on them. First, how to close the significant financial gap that we face in achieving the SDGs. This includes increasing climate finance and investments. Norway will continue to be a driving force for a more effective and inclusive tax cooperation. We also look forward to contributing as co-facilitator to an ambitious outcome document at the UN's 4th Financing for Development Conference next year. That's my first point. Second, our efforts on peace and security are crucial to alleviate humanitarian needs. We need to ensure women's participation in conflict prevention and in all aspects of the peace and security agenda. That's my second point. And third, dear friends, the Pact should identify how we can achieve an inclusive, open and secure digital future for all. Accessibility is key, particularly for the least developed countries. So as Prime Minister of Norway, I firmly support the Secretary General's reform agenda for the UN and the international financial institutions. For Norway, this includes a more transparent and representative Security Council. We need to address the historical injustice against Africa and improve the representation of underrepresented regions. So today we are faced with multiple parallel challenges. Hard to tackle, but we need to address them with boldness. Tackling these will require more, not less, multilateral cooperation. We must acknowledge our part in these challenges. Only we, as member states, can find the solutions. It will take some tough choices and hard negotiations, but we believe, Norway believes, that the Pact for the Future is a commitment to each other and to future generations. Thank you for your attention and the best of luck.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Nangolo Mumba, President of the Republic of Namibia, His Excellency Olaf Scholz, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Today, in times of unprecedented global challenges and escalating conflicts, we are at risk of permanently damaging the notion of we. A collective we requires a degree of equality and justice. The plight of the people of Gaza is a mockery of this we. This we becomes marred amidst rising debt burdens for the poor, increasing poverty, growing inequality, intolerance, terrorist violence, illegal foreign occupation, and a skewed approach to climate adaptation. Achieving the Sustainable Development Goals necessitates significant reform of the international financial framework. This requires enhanced concessional financing, increased official development assistance, and greater lending from multilateral development banks. Above all, we need innovative financial solutions to address debt challenges, including climate debt swaps and equitable debt relief mechanisms. While technological advancements offer great opportunities for progress, it is vital that these technologies are accessible to all, particularly the citizens in the global south. Open access to innovations can empower our people. At the same time, new technologies require new and effective safeguards to prevent the world from their possible misuse. Injustices and inequalities create avenues for malign actors both locally and globally, particularly in nations grappling with climate vulnerability and high debt, which also face terrorism and disinformation. To counter these harms, effective international cooperation is more urgent today than ever before. The Summit of the Future represents a great opportunity. We must not lose it. I thank you all.
President Mbumba, Chancellor Srots, Secretary General Guterres, Excellencies. In 10 days' time, all member states will gather at the United Nations for the Summit of the Future. The summit is a timely initiative. The world is going through an exceptionally difficult period. Conflicts are disrupting lives and causing untold human suffering. Climate change is intensifying, threatening our ecosystems. Infectious diseases are exposing our common vulnerability. These are issues which no single party has the solution to. They need to be addressed with concerted multilateral action at a place like the UN. Yet trust in multilateralism is waning at this very moment when it is urgently needed. Geopolitical contestation is impeding international cooperation. There are also growing signs of protectionism and unilateralism. The Summit of the Future is therefore the opportunity of our generation to reinvigorate the multilateral system with the UN at its core, to recommit to the principles of the UN Charter, and to accelerate the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, more than ever, we need to ensure that the multilateral system remains fit for purpose, not just to deal with the issues of today, but also the new and emerging challenges of tomorrow. More than half of the UN member states, including Singapore, are small states. For us, multilateralism is not an option. It is an essential lifeline. Without the stability and order of a rules-based multilateral system, we will descend into a world where might makes right and the law of the jungle prevails. The very principles that safeguard our sovereignty and security will be undermined. When Singapore was received into the fold of the United Nations nearly 6 decades ago, we said that we would give unflinching support to promote the principles and ideals of the UN Charter. Because the well-being, security, and integrity of countries can be assured only on these principles. Without them, there can be no worthwhile future for humanity. Our commitment to uphold these principles with the global community remains at the core of Singapore's foreign policy today. That is why we fully support the Pact for the Future.
Excellencies and colleagues, our world is facing interconnected challenges. We have the highest number of countries engaged in conflicts since the Second World War. Human rights, democracy, the rule of law and gender equality are being pushed back in many places. We are facing climate change, nature loss and pollution, and we are not yet on track to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals on time. To address these challenges, we must work together. Global governance must become more effective. We must take steps to reform both the Security Council and the international financial architecture so that they are fit for the challenges of the 21st century. The Security Council must better reflect current realities with extra permanent and non-permanent seats, including for African countries. Meanwhile, digital and emerging technologies are transforming our societies. Sweden and Zambia have facilitated the negotiations of the Global Digital Compact, which will be adopted at the summit. This compact outlines a way forward for advancing an inclusive, open, sustainable, fair and secure digital future for all. I want to thank everyone who has been involved in this important process. Finally, international law, including the sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of all member states, must be respected. A permanent member of the Security Council continually undermining the norms and principles of the UN is particularly appalling. Sweden will continue to stand up for the UN Charter wherever it is violated. The Pact for the Future represents our joint commitment to ensuring an inclusive, equitable and effective multilateral system that is fit for purpose and for the future. I want to thank the Secretary General, co-facilitators Germany and Namibia, the delegates and all stakeholders who have contributed to the preparations for this summit. Thank you so much.
Your Excellency António Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. Your Excellency Olaf Scholz, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany. Your Excellency Nangolo Mbumba, President of the Republic of Namibia. Excellencies, distinguished guests, I am very pleased to add my voice to the Summit of the Future Global Call. I commend the Secretary General for initiating the summit and for his new Agenda for Peace report. Timor-Leste actively participated in the formation of the 2015 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We strongly advocated for Goal 16, the peace goal. Bitter experience taught us that without peace, there can be no development. This was a lesson that led our young nation to help form the G7+, a group of 20 fragile or conflict-affected states that work together to change international sustainable development policies and to promote peace. The new Agenda for Peace report prepared for the summit reflects many of the issues and initiatives proposed by the G7+. The importance of trust, solidarity and cooperation, the positive role of international law, preventative diplomacy and a national ownership and priorities. With only 6 years remaining until the 2030 deadline, achieving the Sustainable Development Goals remains an ambitious vision. Transforming our world requires more than vision. It demands practical solutions and hard work on the ground. To secure our future, we need to question the structure of the global economy that allows the developed world to exploit and control developing and fragile countries. We need new models of international cooperation and development that promote peace, the precursor for development. Thank you.
On behalf of the Order of Malta, I wish to commend the tireless efforts of all stakeholders who have dedicated themselves to shaping the pact for the future. The Order of Malta totally subscribes to the overall commitment to strengthen the system of multilateral cooperation based on the respect for international law and a renewed spirit of multilateralism. We attach special importance to the respect of international humanitarian law and to the protection of the civilian population and relief operators in situations of conflict. The Order of Malta is making extraordinary efforts to provide assistance to people affected by humanitarian emergencies. We have been doing so extensively in Ukraine over the past 2.5 years, and are doing so currently in Gaza, where we provide food aid in cooperation with the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. The Order of Malta remains steadfast in its 900-year-old mission of service to all those who suffer, regardless of their religious, ethnic, social, or cultural background. The Order of Malta takes care of the most vulnerable, the sick, the poorest, the elderly, the people with disabilities, and communities affected by natural disasters and conflicts. We fully endorse the overarching goal of the eradication of poverty as a center of international efforts to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Leave no one behind wholly corresponds to the inspiring source and guiding principles of the historical mission of the Order of Malta. The Order also attaches utmost importance to the goal of promoting the culture of peace, inclusion, tolerance, and peaceful coexistence by eradicating, amongst other things, religious discrimination. Religion is an integral part of the human personality and of culture and social life all around the world. And religious freedom and dialogue amongst religions can be a powerful vehicle for conflict mediation, social advancement, and sustainable development. On behalf of the global community of the Order of Malta, we are honored to be a part of this pivotal initiative. Let this historic pact for the future stand as a beacon of hope, illuminating the path forward for present and future generations. The choice is ours, and the moment to act is now.